You're listening to Just My Show, your number one source for pop culture.
So first, if you would, I hope you remember it, tell us Juan Epstein's full name.
Juan Luis Pedro Filippo de Huevos Epstein from San Juan.
Very nice. So let's go right back to the beginning. You actually, I guess, went in for the role of Barbarino, and I guess that happens from time to time. You go in, you end up with a different part, but how did all that play out?
Well, it played out great. I showed up to do the pilot, and I'm getting into the elevator at CBS where we shot the pilot. And Alan Sachs, who was the producer, and John Travolta and I got in an elevator together, and Alan looked at me and said, Epstein, this is Barbarino. I said, no, I'm Barbarino. And he said, no, this is Barbarino, you're Epstein. And I said, well, how much? I said, this, so I went something like this. Do I get the same pay he does? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, it's fine. Fine with me.
All right, so I understand the characters in the show are based, at least in part, on real people that Gabe Kaplan knew in Brooklyn. Was there one specific real person, to your knowledge, that Epstein was based on?
According to my knowledge, yes. There was this really, really tough guy who Gabe grew up with, who also had a heart of gold. And as for the Puerto Rican Jew part, they didn't know my national. When I auditioned, I was doing a Broadway show at the time, and I actually showed up wearing the same wardrobe as a Puerto Rican gang member. And they didn't know my nationality, so they decided to make him a Puerto Rican Jew. But yeah, it was really all based on a lot of real life experiences. What
did you bring to the role? I know you're a big Marx Brothers fan, and I guess that had an influence on how you played the character.
Yeah, well, first of all, I was teaching prior to performing. One of the ways I was supporting myself in New York was as a substitute teacher. Not that it sounds like we're in New York, doesn't it?
It does.
But believe it or not, that's Venice, baby. That's how we roll. So I was teaching, so I was kind of the technical advisor on the show, and I was hanging out with teenagers. I was basically not far from being a teenager myself. So I was really, really sensitive to what was going on in high schools. And then, my sense of comedy was, very much anarchy comedy. Three Stooges, especially the Marx Brothers. And so I guess that's what I brought to the table.
Now, the show's obviously set in Brooklyn, and what I found interesting, when I looked at all the cast members, about half of them are actually from New York, and the rest, like you, from New Jersey, are from nearby. Was that very deliberate that they wanted East Coasters because they thought they could bring that East Coast attitude to the show?
Yeah, I think that was Gabe's idea, and they had auditioned first. I think they found John and Larry actually were here. Larry was working on a film, and John had just finished doing a commercial. But we were all, I was on Broadway the same time John was, the same time Ron was doing off-Broadway Hot L Baltimore. Larry was a very successful film actor, and still is, and was also doing stage in New York. So Gabe's idea was, let's go to New York, and I want to give that a shot, which they don't do anymore. And what happened was they wound up with 4 New York stage actors.
So 30 years later and thousands of lunchboxes later, I think most people look at the Sweat Hogs as, slightly misguided, but generally harmless, at least by today's standards. People might forget, and younger fans might not know, that the show was actually a little controversial at the beginning. It was banned in Boston briefly because they were dealing with integration in the schools, and I guess they thought people would freak out if they saw you guys together in a classroom, and I guess teachers were worried about how Mr. Kotter would be portrayed. How much did you guys feel that on the set, and was there actually any real worry that you might not survive that?
That's a good question. Yes, we were banned in Boston, which I think was great because all it did was add wonderful controversy to the show. When we originally staged the pilot episode for the network, we portrayed it more as a blackboard jungle dark comedy. And I remember after the network read-through, James Comack said, "You guys you're killing my show. You got to think funny. This is not they're terrified of you." And that's when I came up with this Marx Brother idea. Just I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying, okay, This is what I know is funny. And so it was very serious. We were serious stage actors. We were all, John was doing a lot of comedy. I was torturing Arlene Francis with a knife on stage prior to doing that. So it was a new experience for us, which is, okay, what's sitcom? What's funny? I wasn't even watching TV. And from there, we developed it as fun and funny.
Of course, when you're talking about Juan Epstein, you got to talk about the notes, all signed by Epstein's mother. The one thing I want to ask you, was there anything actually written on the pieces of paper when you handed them?
Yes, the notes were always written for Gabe to read, because I didn't read them, and the prop people were really wonderful about that. So yeah, they wrote them out.
Did you save any of those notes? Do you have any original notes from Kotter?
No, I didn't. I do have the wardrobe, and I have the binder that Epstein used.
All right.
A couple of lunch boxes. I got a couple of lunch boxes in games.
Did the whole Epstein's mother thing get back to your mother in Jersey at all? Did people, go up to her, calling her Epstein's mother and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think she got such a treat out of that. She was very ill and wound up passing away before the series was finished. However, it really gave her such energy. And it was a great little town. I grew up in Metuchen, New Jersey, which is right outside of Manhattan. And she just, became the queen of the town for a while. And people were knocking on the door all the time at the house and saying hi. And, of course, she would have a whole bunch of pictures that I gave her, and she would autograph them.
That's pretty cool. On the set, the four of you guys, the four sweat hogs, how much fun did you guys have? Was it a very loose atmosphere?
Yeah, we had a great time doing the show. It really was. We would make each other laugh all day. It was truly the best show, and one of the best jobs, the best job I ever had, aside from the Venice Walk, which I just did. But Kotter was I love those guys. They're like college roommates. They're still in my life, very much so. Larry was in the Venice Walk. I just spoke with Ron 2 weeks ago, recall, when he was passing through town. John's the godfather of my daughter, Cassie. I love them very much.
For more, go to www.justmyshow.com.